Hello guys, and welcome to the last video of this series of NextAuth with credentials, and it's also the most important one because it's the one that we're gonna create the credentials provider, create the register and login logic for the user. So for that we need also to create a better auth page, but before we go into that, let's first install our packages. So the packages that we will need are also this one, the types, but we will need these three. So the first one is for HTTP requests, the second it's to hash our password when we put it on the database, and the third one is to create our login form. Then let's install also the types for the bcrypt. And finally, we just have to do a quick change in the version of NextAuth because currently there is a problem in the current version, and we will change to this one. So let's do npm e. So now let's style our page, but before we go, I just want you to show where I got the image, the background image that you will see. It was in this application, and you can experiment with others. I choose one from here. Alright, and so we have here our login page styled, and I will just go through all of this very quickly. So the first one, and very important, is the background image. As you can see, I just wanted to point out that we get this image from the IK application, and then we put it on our public folder in here, and that's it. Then we also created this divider. This divider is just this line and this line with a word on it. And then finally we have this state. The first one is just for us to go from register to login. And then the second one is just for me to ask the opposite because we need it for a bit of logic. And then the third one is just for us to get the state of these three inputs. Okay. And then here on the provider buttons, I just change the background and the colors, and change also this to not be hard-coded. Then we have to create these 4 functions that we will do after this, and then this is the core of this login page that you can check with more detail in the GitHub, but I will not go for it right now. So the only thing that we need to know is that when we click on this register button, we already have the state with the variables and with the value of the variables. And now let's just implement this. So the form submit, it's really easy. We just need to see if we are on the register or on the login page. So let's just do that. So auth type, if it is equal to login, then we just do login user, and if not, we are on the register and we just do the register user. That's it. Very simple. So going from this logic, the next one should be the login. So what do we do on the login page? And it's pretty simple. Now we are seeing one of the advantages of the NextAuth, because we simply just call the sign-in function that remember that we imported here from the NextAuth, and then in here we just say login. Now we need to specify what we are logging, for example from the GitHub, from the Google, but in this case we are with credentials. And then we just have to specify what the information that we need from the credentials. In this case it's the email, which is the email state, and also the password, which is the password state. Okay, and that's it for the sign-in. So now I'll just want to add a couple of fields, because I want to, when I log in, go to the home page. And then, so this case I want to do redirect false, so I can prevent the default redirect. And then also use callback URL and go for the origin location. In this case it's going to be window location.origin. That's it. Now let's just see if we get any error from this call. So we receive this response, and let's just check if the response.error, if we have a response, an error, then we just log the response.error, otherwise we'll just redirect to home. That's it for the login. So now, following this order, let's go for the redirect to home. So the redirect to home is also pretty simple. The only thing that we have to do is route from the auth path to the home path, so to the slash only. And to do this, we will use the help of our next router. So let's just import in here. Import router from next router, as you can see. And then in the place that we were, by the way, what I did here was just control minus to go to the last place I was. And then here we just have to get the path name from that variable, the router. And then after getting the path, we just have to see if the path name is equal to what we are expecting. In this case, it's the /auth. And if it is, we just do router.push the home page. And that's it. If you want to redirect to another page, you can. Like if you get a success login, you go to the profile page already. It's up to you. But this is the simplest way. So now let's go to the last one, which is the register. Okay, and the register is the most complicated one, but it's not that complicated. The only thing that we will do is we're gonna make a call to our register API, but NextAuth doesn't help us here, so we have to create all this by ourselves. So we need to also create this register API. That's it. This is the only steps that we have to do. So for this specific case, let's call the register API. What we want to do is do a post, and for that I will use Axios. So let's just import Axios in here. So import Axios from Axios and control minus again. So let's go for get a response from Axios. Let's wait for the response. So Axios.post, as we said. Here we are going to first specify where we want to call. In this case, it's API.register that we did not create yet, but we will. Then we want to specify the body. So in this case, we are registering, so you need the username, also the email, and also the password. That's pretty much it. Just to add one more field for the course. In this case, it's the headers. And for this case, I will just copy paste this. And that's it for the call. Now we want to do something if the call is successful, and we want to do something if we get an error. So we will use the usual then.catch. And for the then, we just want to, what we want to do after we register successfully. We want to register, we also want to log in, because when I register I want already to be logged in, I don't want to go to the login again. And then I also want to be redirected home. So that's it. So let's create an async function for us to wait for the login. And that's pretty much it. So await for the login user and then redirect home. That's it. Simple. And in here what we will do for the error is what we have been doing till now, which is not what you should be doing in a real project, but for here it's good enough. And it's just to console log the error, like so. We now created this call to register API. Let's just create this register API. And for that we just have to create a file inside of Pages API, create a new file called register.ts. And then to save us some time, what I will do here is copy paste what we have in our GitHub and explain to you the steps that we follow. So in this case, it's really important that you remember that we installed this Bcrypt. We also want to import the DB Connect and the user model. So in this case, our response data will be either an error or a message of success. We want also to validate the data that it comes. So in this case, I did not use any library for it, but I would advise you to do use Zod, for example, which is a really nice library to verify fields in a form. But this, I went to the raw version of it. So it's simple. We are just want to see if the username it's lower than 3. So we want usernames bigger than 3 characters. We want to validate the email. Feel free to copy this rejects. Then we also want to connect because we want to find if we already have a user with this email. If we do, we just say that the email already exists. And also the password should be bigger than 5. And that's about it. So we handle the API, so we see if it is a post. If it isn't, we just reject the call. Then we get this from the body that we sent. If you remember, here we are sending this in the body. Then we just validate, which was what we just finished seeing. We hash the password. In here, I would say it would be better if you hash the password on the client side, because then we are sending this via HTTP to someone that can be a man in the middle and see the password. So I would advise you to do this on the client side, and then also create the user in the MongoDB if everything is okay, and then just send if the creation is complete, send a successful message or an error message. That's it for the register. And we are just one step to the final of this video, which is to here add the credentials provider. And for that, what we need is add the credentials provider. Then we also have to complete the authorize method, which is the sign-in, if the sign-in is correct in the credentials. And that's it. This is the end of the video. So to do this, let's just import the credentials provider. So provider, and let's just use it exactly the same way. So credentials provider, this is a function, and so inside we want to give some fields. I will just copy paste the important ones, and this is the ID for the credentials, the name. Also this ID, it's important because it's what we call in here when we do the sign-in. Then we also have the credentials, so we need to pass the email and a password, which is also what we are passing inside here. We are passing the email and the password. And then we also have to create this authorize function. And this is the important part. So in here, what we want to do is the following. We want to connect to the DB, in this case MongoDB. Then we want to find the user with the email that we receive. Then we want to do something if the email does not exist. So this is an incorrect login. And then we also want to do something if the email exists. So in this case, we want to check the password. And then finally, we want to check if the password is incorrect. So if it is incorrect, we do something. And otherwise, we just give the user. And alright, to complete this, we just have to code this. So to connect to the DB, we just have to do db connect. Then to find the user, we just have to do the user, and for that we need to import the user from the models. And also we will need to import the compare function. This is important, from the bcrypt, which will enable us, because we hash the password in the database, it will be difficult to compare by hand, so we need to use this function that compares the password with the user hashed one. Then also we check if the email is not found, we get the password. If it is correct, we also get the correct, and finally we just give the user. And that's it. You are complete with the credentials authentication as well as with the auth providers like GitHub and Google, etc., to use your application. Okay, now that we completed our authorized function, we just have one more step to do, which is we have to specify the type of secret that we want, which is JWT. And for that, we just need to specify that session uses the strategy of JWT, and also that JWT is using the secret that we need to specify on process.env. The name you want, but in my case I will use NextAuth JWT secret. And finally, we just have to say that the secret that it's used for the provider's login, it also comes from NextAuth secret. And now let's just add this local environment into our .env local by just adding something similar to this one. And I will show you how can I generate this type of secrets. JWT, and it's simple. Just have to open a new terminal and type open SSL run base32. Then I copy this secret and put it in here. That's it. So just to conclude this, we will just add here in our navbar a way to delete this when we are in the auth page. We'll just get the path name using the router that we also get before, path name. In this case we will use the hook to get the router. And what we will do next is, if the page is in this list, we do not render the navbar. So let's create a list, so pages without navbar. This case it's just this one, which is auth. Then if we want to render, so let's say render navbar is as simple as pages without navbar that includes path name, and this is what we don't want to render. So what we want to render is the opposite of this. And finally just render navbar. We render this, otherwise we don't render anything. And now we get this page. Alright, so what we are missing is just to test. So for that, let's just restart our server. And in a bit this will be restarted, so let's just wait a bit. Yep, this is already restarted. So now create a test user and test and also a small password. And when we register, we should supposed to be already created. Yep, we are. we are here with the user. Let's just sign out. Let's just go for auth and go for the user that we created, which was this one. And then also log in. We are good. We also have the application. Let's just sign out again and go for auth, and now we just want to use the sign in with the GitHub. We also see some debugs. Yep, we are signed in, sign out. Yep, and that concludes the video. Hope you have enjoyed this series. I just want to say that I would like you to comment on things that you would like for me to improve on this. I would say that if I have a few comments about the same topic, I would do a bonus video. So feel free to comment on it, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. See you in the next one.